Hello, my name is Francis Fox. I am a recovering victim of US military mind control. I was sex trafficked within that whole. My psychic abilities were honed. I am now witnessing revelations about the Epstein files. I can understand why people in charge of creating order in society would have determined that releasing the information about the volume of people involved in sex trafficking and satanic rituals, not just the volume, but the quality of the people that are our leaders in our churches, the Catholic Church is not going to survive this, being it that, to my knowledge, they started the largest sex trafficking uh, program until then in 1960-61, Operation Peter Pan. Oh, how cute, a Disney character, which is what they used in the military mind control programs and all of us children. The Vatican started that rescuing of 16,000 Cuban children because they set it up with the CIA so that there would be a lie that Castro was going to send the children to the fields to cut crops. Well, first place, that's not torture. But modern people would probably consider it that, so I'm going to let that go. It turned out that that was not the case. But it scared the Cubans that are very family oriented and very protective of their children. And so the Vatican said, send us your kids. We'll take care of them until you get over here. And from what I read in the internet, and I believe it because it makes sense, they had thousands of visas for children, not a single visa for the parents. They didn't want the parents around. I believe that would have been the largest sex trafficking program until that point. Catholic Church involved. The Catholic Church remained involved with the what ended up being a cartel, which I used to call the Cuban Mafia, which is what in Europe media calls this particular group of Cubans, Cuban exiles in Miami, which, by the way, I trained with, except I was 11 and they were 18, 19, 20, 30, 40 years old in the Everglades. So I'm seeing all this stuff about Epstein. I said, without the details, because the people couldn't take even the simplest information, that this was happening to me and that I was waking up. And I do think that my control wanted for me to be free of all of that, which is why in 94, he didn't encourage me. He set up a lawsuit in which I was suing the Cuban cartel, which was at that point the person where it made most sense was a man that was supposedly my uncle, but he wasn't my uncle. So of course, my kids were horrified, and I was horrified. What, my God, I was terrified of them. Anyway, the lawsuit didn't make it, even though we had a group called Amigos de la Corte, Friends of the Court, that support lawsuits that they feel have value. Anyway, the lawsuit was thrown out because of statutes of limitation in the state of Florida. Well, I got beaten up badly. And within, I think, several months, my control, who was trying to protect me at that point, he kept reminding me. You know what he kept telling me throughout the years that we related, which means he was my control and my handler. Well, he would have been my control because he was in Washington. I had a handler in Miami. He kept saying to me, "You have to remember that I didn't put you in this program. Your family did." That was true. So I'm watching everything that's happening today. And I'm very happy that it's not going the way it went for me in 92. I found a letter that I wrote my children in 92, which I'm horrified at, but basically it was saying this stuff is coming out today. And of course, I was deemed either a liar or I had just gotten mentally ill like overnight. And of course, the people that knew that I was saying the truth obviously did not come out and say, you know what, she's not so crazy, because obviously nobody stood up for me. Nobody. I went from being a person with a very nice reputation, really good in business. People admired the way I handled business, the way I had built something from nothing, to being a crazy lady. And I wasn't crazy. And I was all by myself. And the truth of the matter is that when people tried to connect me with other mind control victims who were also speaking at that point, I think we all understood that it wasn't worth connecting with each other, because the punishment that we would get for connecting with each other was too big. It wasn't worth it. I'll never forget, a doctor friend of mine called me and said, I met another mind control victim. She had all those stories just like yours. I said, oh, that's good. He said, you want to meet her? And I said, no. He said, that's so funny because I asked her and she doesn't want to meet you either. I said, okay, so just drop it. That would have been in the 90s. Wasn't worth it. Today, there's a bit of a community. Today, obviously, the danger continues because, as I said for the years, are you guys going to protect the victims? Meanwhile, the handlers, more than the control, the handlers, it's not to their advantage that the victims continue alive. So it's messy. The good news is that it's coming out. The bad news is, yeah, there's going to be a collapse of a lot of things because it's the people at the top. How did they get to the top? Or how did they stay at the top? Well, I decided to incarnate into my god awful life because I want to teach human beings about white magic. Now, how did I learn about magic? Forget about my personal experiences and what I was put through. When I opened my office and I started taking care of my clients, I did not believe in black magic. There had to have been another part of me that absolutely knew that was true, but the part of me that was professional and did not look like a crazy lady, I didn't really believe in that. I thought that just happened to people with, if it happened at all, to people with low IQ. Anyway, so I have always charged what I consider as appropriately, which a lot of you would consider a lot. And I got, because of where I was located, I had many Hispanic males that were well to do that made appointments with me. And too many of them, I would say, you were victimized by black magic 22 years ago. Somebody did some black magic on you 5 years ago. Meanwhile, I didn't believe in black magic, but my training protocol for being a psychic is very severe. And I do not have the right to judge what it is I saw. If I saw it, I saw it. And at some level, it's reality. So I would tell my clients this, and I'll never forget the first one who said, 22 years ago? Oh my God. That's when my father died and my wife left me and all my businesses went south. So that's what it was, he said. So that's what happened. Yeah, that was what happened. Anyway, through the years, in witnessing the effects of black magic on my clients, and then, of course, on myself, my family, whatever, friends, it took me years to learn how to remove it, which I'm really good at right now. But I would look to see what it was that was done. I never looked at the rituals. I cannot stand rituals. I don't even want to find out why I can't stand rituals. Okay, I have enough. But I could see what it was that they were doing, and I thought, oh my God, this is like they're geniuses, ill-intended geniuses, bad people, but geniuses at creating a bad reality for other people. And it took me years, last 7 or 8 years, when I realized, well, this genius thing that they do with good intentions, who knows what we can achieve? Well, you know what? You can achieve a lot and more, because when it comes to black magic, what I noticed was that the people that achieve things via black magic, eventually they lose it, because those same spirits that allowed that achievement don't want you to be up there. They're jerking you around. They're going to pull the rug out from under you, which brings me to the whole Nazi thing. The Nazis achieved a level of technology that everybody was jealous of. The British, the Americans, everybody. How did they do that? They were totally into metaphysics. I understand that the Second World War was the first World War, the first modern war that was fought with metaphysics. And I was told that in the Nuremberg trials, none of that was allowed to come out because it was going to scare the population. What an excuse. Sounds like the doctors that would take care of me would say, well, there's nothing the matter, Francis. And I'd say, I think maybe there is. And then with two doctors, when I had to have major back surgery and I had to have a hysterectomy, at whatever point, the doctor said, you know what, you were right. Yeah, I was right. I just didn't have the face of a person that had a physical ailment, which I never do. I guess the day it's time for me to go, I'm going to look like this and just fall over. She's dead. But she looked fine. You know where I learned that? Military mind control program. Oh, I'm not going to try not to be ADD in this particular session. So one of the things we were all told, because ended up in a group of 4 women that were military mind control victims, we were all told that germs didn't exist. So it didn't matter what they threw us into, what they made us eat, what they made us do, we weren't going to get sick because germs don't exist. Well, that, by the way, is magic. You train your mind. And it's a denial of physical reality because in the place where reality is created, you're negating that. We were also told we couldn't get AIDS. I think we were also injected with something not to get AIDS, but we were told we couldn't get it that way. So it just doesn't happen. So in witnessing, not that, but my clients, my business clients and personal people, I went, this is a little bit neat. This is kind of neat. They achieved this. Well, why can't we do that? And that is what I do today. Now, you see here behind me, that away. No, that away. I guess this is reversed. A piece of art that was done by somebody who's very metaphysical. I was the one who commissioned it. And it is a sigil, which means it's a type of technology that's magical. And it can just be a drawing. This is just a drawing. But that drawing gets programmed. And I program the drawing. So let me tell you what it is. What is the programming in this particular drawing? Because there's so much talk about systems collapsing and the gold collapsing in the United States, business collapsing, I wanted to pitch in with white magic. So I created this sigil with the intention that it protect whatever structures or systems or whatever it is that it needs to protect for the United States to stay financially stable. Because I have to tell you, being it that I relate mainly to people from Latin America, the United States is great when it comes to money and finances. It's not great when it comes to being happy and to being playful and to have great sex. It's not. It's just not. That's not the goal. So I went off a tangent and I lost the thread. So this sigil, it has to do with finances, but not money. Systems, structures at a country or planetary level. It's my intention. Let me explain the different elements. You have the tree at the top that forms a canopy of protection. Our energy system, we have 72,000 mind strings from string theory, but the scientists don't know that is 360 degrees around us, and it creates a canopy of protection. Now, you get portals in that canopy and then you get sick. Spirits come in, bad stuff comes in. So we have 2 canopies because in esoteric Catholicism, there is a second tree of life at the bottom, upside down. I don't know a lot about it. I will very soon as we get out of emergency mode, having to do with all of this sex trafficking and all the rest of that, revelations. So we have 2 trees of life that protect you. You have in the center the triangle with the eye, which whoever it is that designed the dollar bill in the United States or paper money put in that triangle with an eye at the top. That's the third eye. The third eye is all about wisdom. It's about knowing everything past, present, future. And it's connected to your wisdom because when you know everything, it's like it raises you up and you look down and you go, ah, I understand. I get it. Because you have that extra information. Such as if somebody murders somebody, if your lens is very narrow, you go, the guy's an animal, put him in jail, death sentence. If your lens is wide, as in the third eye, you go, oh my God, look what happened to him when he was young. That's why he does this, at which time the consequences of his actions will be very different and will include purification, healing, understanding, and compassion. That's what the third eye does for you. So that's in the Sigil to protect the economic financial systems in this country, but you can apply it to the world and you can apply it to your family finances. So you've got the third eye. Then you have a crystal, almost like the center axis. We have a center axis, which is literally the Holy Grail. And that's where our intentions are channeled. So that's in the center. It's a crystal, which means it's very robust, it's very strong. There's a lot of extra information there. You have a circle, which is the shape of the heart chakra with 12 petals. That's the amount of petals that are around the heart center. The heart center is where there is no hitting up against each other. And the name of the center, which I forgot what the name is in Hinduism, it's the heart chakra. It means no sound because nothing is hitting. You don't have left and right, Republicans, Democrats, male, female, light, dark. You don't have any of that hitting. It's all resolved or understood in the heart chakra. We wanted to put that in terms of the financial systems. Why? Because maybe we need a new financial system because we're going into the age of Aquarius. Maybe there's a new financial system we need. So this will offer protection in that process. Now, I had to struggle with the designer because she did not want to put the cannabis leaves there. And she's not old. But that cannabis disinformation, really strong. Cannabis is a female plant that reduces fire. It's been in use in Ayurveda and in Chinese medicine for 5,000 years. Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, 2,000 years. It reduces fire. You cannot have fights. You cannot have war. You can't have rage, and your frustration level goes down to almost zero if you don't have extra fire. Cannabis reduces it. I wanted to put that there. It needs to be every place on the planet because our biggest issue today is a lack of the balance of the elements due to an excess of the fire element. Let me see if I missed something else. I didn't. So you can take this and reproduce it in whatever format on paper. Eventually, we're going to have it made up in some metals and you should hang it all over the place. But let me tell you, I did a chat the other day and I said to everybody, go ahead and put this symbol mentally in your pocketbook, on your bank accounts, and I'm going to look at you and see your name and you'll put in my purse and I look at your purse and I'll tell you what it does. The chat is in Spanish, but honestly, I was shocked. I have never seen anything more powerful than this sigil. Never, ever seen anything create such incredible change, but appropriate change. One man had put the sigil having to do with, I think he's not from Venice, he's from Venezuela, but he's in another place, or he lost his job with the government, who knows? And he's a professional, a doctor. So he had put this on the office that he wants to go back to when everything gets settled. At least that's the way I interpreted that. He said, I want to go back there. And then, but when I saw the sigil was not in the office, which is where he had put it mentally. It was on top of his diploma. And I said, listen, Why do you want to go back to that office? Because the Sigil seems to be of the opinion that what you need to purify and fertilize is your diploma, not that office. He said, well, I'm older, so just go back there. I said, the Sigil doesn't think you're older. It wants you to energize and protect your diploma, your profession, but not necessarily go back there. And he got so happy. Everybody was putting the Sigil in different places, and the Sigil was creating movement and making changes if necessary. I have never seen that. I suggest you try it and do a mantra. Please, God, help me with my intention to miraculously protect my bank account, to miraculously have the money that I need, to miraculously, uh, what was the word I was going to use? Survive whatever it is that's coming up, whatever. Try it. It's white magic at its best. So now let's go back to the sex trafficking because everybody wants to talk about this. If I didn't know better, they're talking about Epstein, but they're really talking about the CIA mind control programs. Exactly the same thing. Developing psychic abilities through trauma. Yeah, that I tell everybody that follows me. There's two ways you get great psychics. One is an electrical accident, you get electrocuted. And the other one is abuse, severe abuse. The military mind control program did both of those things. They gave you electroshock. And the severe abuse and fear creates great psychics. That's what's coming out in the Epstein stuff. Are these parallel programs, the Epstein games, the CIA stuff, or is it the CIA stuff running the Epstein thing? Who am I to say? Now, I don't really know anything about Epstein, but I also do not really remember most of the last 20 some years of my life, which would have been when Rene de Villegas was my handler. Now, Rene de Villegas is still loose on the streets, so it doesn't surprise me that Epstein could possibly be alive. It doesn't surprise me at all. Why is my handler loose? I've given you his address. There's plenty of evidence. Everybody knows that I'm not lying. He's still around. Well, why wouldn't Epstein be around? My handler worked with Adam Schiff, the guys in all the politicians in Washington, any Cuban politician that originated in Miami. No way that they don't know Rene de Villegas. There's no way. The man was like an octopus, is like an octopus, even though I don't think he'll last much longer. But there is so much all this stuff coming up under Epstein, which is basically just change the name, put in CIA military mind control program. Just substitute the top name. It's probably all the same players. I don't know, but it's not a coincidence. Somebody's doing a good job with ICE. I have here a note, stress management. It seems to me that someplace the whole ICE movement found its center. Okay. And people seem to be more self-assured about what it is that they're doing in terms of ICE. We do have the coming together, and now I want to Ali, I'm not going to trust you anymore. Okay? Simply because of the way you're handling the text. So I'm going to pull you out of here and do not come to my chats, okay? Um, so there's something that's important. When I started my therapy, I was in a state of shock with zero support except from the psychologist that worked with me, which soon into my weekly meetings with them, I said, why is it that I know more about the human mind than you guys do? You're the psychologist. I ended up teaching them a lot of things. One of the things that I remember saying one day, because there was a bit of an argument with my psychologist, because the first thing that I wanted to take care of was the stuff that I had done as a mind control victim, which means I would have never chosen to do that on my own. And I wanted to deal with that, the ugly stuff that I had done and been involved in. My psychologist was arguing with me. And I said, no, we're going to deal with that first because I can't live with that. And I explained to her that your insides need to match your outsides. And I also said a couple years later, I can't keep being a victim or just do the victim thing because years are going by. I need to do my thing, which I have done. Okay. The point having to do with the Karens and the left and a lot of people is that their inside does not match their outside. In terms of the left, the things that they're proposing, other than the transgender stuff, that's just plain sick because of the involvement of spirits in that whole sex thing. The wanting everybody to give to all the immigrants and give them money and put them up in good hotels and give them, yeah, we know that it was a manipulation. But most of those people actually believe that that is a good thing, which in a sense, it's a good thing. What the problem is that those same people that want all of the immigrants to come in and to take care of all of them, if you scratch away a little bit of the surface internally, they are not unified in their proposal that we treat everybody wonderfully when they come in, even if they drain our system. And that is what's coming up now. They are not congruent internally and externally. And that is what we all need to look for, what you're feeling inside. And so I'm going to say something, and I don't care if all the mind control victims and sex trafficking victims get upset at me. You cannot just be a victim. It's not possible. Because inside of you, you have a level of hatred that is so legitimate that there's nobody that can contest it. But you must take care of that legitimate reaction in order to become one piece, not split, to get your memories back and to get standing on both of your feet. So the mantra that you have to do is, even though I hate, I love and accept myself. And most people won't do that. They prefer to fall into the victim thing. Look what was done to me. I did that for several years, paid a ton of money. But you cannot just do that because you had a reaction. And until you take care of that reaction, you're always going to be limping. And that can't be. You don't want to be limping, because if you went through what you went through, it's because you chose it, not because you're dumb, but because that can give you a level of power that you can use for your mission, which is what I'm doing. So anybody who was severely abused, severely sexual abused, and went through all that stuff, what you have is a gold mine inside of you of skills that you can turn into positive action. You can turn into a business. But in order to access that, you have to find where that's buried, which is underneath your legitimate reaction to what was done to you. Because it's totally legitimate. People shouldn't be doing that. I mean, obviously, but you chose it. And my sister used to tell me that decades ago, and I said, I'm not that dumb. I would have never chosen this. Then I finally realized I did, and then I felt a little bit better about myself. And then I went, okay, so now what? I'm using the skills that I developed because I was in that program. I am not belittling the people that want to slit their wrists and kill themselves because of what they went through at all. Of my group, the only person that did not try ever to commit suicide was me. The person that never said, I want to kill myself, was me. The person that took zero antipsychotic drugs from psychiatrists was me. but I was also trained to protect my mind. And all of those things destroy your mind. I also had, I'm going to admit it, I had an anti suicide hypnotic programming from when I was a child. And then when they killed Kennedy, because I had been trafficked with him, I just wanted to die. And so they had to do it again, which basically is they hypnotize you and tell you that you're not allowed to kill yourself, but you're not allowed to die. You're not allowed to, oh, gee, I stepped in front of a bus and it ran me over and I'm dead. They covered every single angle. So, no, I don't. Gert is asking if you can print the Sigil in other colors. Absolutely. But I would print it in colors that are compatible with what would be protection of structure, money. Uh, we couldn't figure that out, but because we're going to make it up in metals, um, it, we needed to present it like this. But we're still working on it, but the elements will remain the same. So I've been watching the news. I've actually been looking at the news compulsively on X, and people are shocked. So I'm going to say what I said in 1992 when people did not believe me. And people would tell you I was the most truthful person. I was brutally truthful. So I would say, okay, so I'm telling you this, you don't believe it. Well, it's not that I don't. Okay. I said, okay, so there's two options. I'm mentally ill. No, 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 you're not mentally ill. I know you. You're semi-civil. Or I'm a liar. No, you're not a liar. Okay, so then which of it is? So then it's true because I'm not mentally ill and I'm not a liar. They couldn't wrap their heads around it. They couldn't. They couldn't. That's not possible. It wasn't possible that I had hidden a secret second life, and it wasn't possible that people would do that. And they at such a grand scale and nobody noticed. So I understand. But I need for this to be over because we have to get to the good part. And the good part is that magic works. And if we take that, the fact that it works, and we stop letting the archaeologists cover up all the evidence throughout the centuries in the archaeological digs, and we learn from the people that are currently doing black magic, then we're going to be able to take our civilization to an incredibly high level. And if we do what the Nazis did, the reason they achieved that level of technology is because they worked with ETs, obviously bad ETs, who lifted the Nazis up to a level and then pulled the rug out from under them, which is what they always do, the bad ones. But you can work with the good ATs. And that is the new venture that I'm into, having to do with my business, my executive coaching, executive training, prosperity in the midst of chaos training, which is training people so that they'll be positioned so that when the opportunities come, which could be already or next week, that they will be in a position that practically nobody else will be in, to be able to say, I think I may be able to help. And the first thing you have to do is develop your telepathy, which is the original language of the planet, until the God, the person that we were told was God, came and destroyed the Temple of Babel and created language. Well, before that, everybody communicated, and you communicated with animals. So if you're interested in staying afloat and maybe getting to the head of the line in this integration, revelations of ETs galactic with humans, start talking to your pets or to the bird that stands at your window or animals that you see in the park. But it has to be quiet. You can't have all sorts of people talking initially. And then trust what you're hearing is not garbage and it's not static. And then just keep doing it and tell God that you want to develop telepathy. Baseline. You need to be able to get back to a skill that's already inside of you. So if you want to become more psychic, turn yourself over to Jeffrey Epstein, that apparently is still in Israel. No. Turn yourself over to the military mind control program. No. contact with nature. And by the way, I have a psychic super skill, which is called the power of induction. When you are with me, even if it's during a chat, your psychic abilities are augmenting. So there's a lot of things that you can do and that you should, top of the list, having to do with executive development. This needs to be there. Either that or what? Is your whole industry, your whole business is going to slide into nothingness? Or it's going to be at the bottom because the people that can keep up with what's going on today, which is revelations. So, okay, you didn't do anything bad. You're okay. You're at the top of the heap. You don't really like other people from other countries. Well, that's kind of hard because there's certain countries that specialize in certain things that maybe you need their help. And the whole thing with aliens, you're not sure you believe that. Oh my God. There's been proof of that since the beginning of history. Archaeologists also, you know what? Why don't you roll them all up, put them in a big truck, and shoot them? Take them out and shoot them at dawn. They have set us, I'm just joking, but it's very angering. Why did we let those people? Why are we still honoring them? Why are we still funding universities that are teaching stuff totally incompatible with the new world? We're sending our kids there? What is that all about? What that's all about is being stuck, being at the top of the heap and needing for the heap to stay the same. You need for the system to stay the same because you're at the top or close to the top, or you're climbing to the top, or you paid to have your kids go to school so they'll be at the top. But that top collapsed. Hierarchy ended. It was in the Bible that you're always throwing around. And community is here, Age of Aquarius. So where's your adjustments? That's why you're listening to me. So I widen your lens and you get horrified and you can't stand it. And she's so arrogant. And who the hell does she think she is? And she's hiding all this stuff. Okay. But you're listening. Your lens is going to be wider. It has been said that in the future, I think that starts now, Latin America is going to be the hotspot of the world, having to do with all sorts of things. Finances make sense. In Latin America, everybody knows that ETs exist. And everybody either has seen ETs or spaceships more than once, or their cousins have all seen them, or their mother or their father. They don't have an issue with that. There's no lying about that. And anybody that says ETs don't exist, they're just, okay, it's going to be your problem in the future. And it is a problem in this country. So the quicker we get to the positive part of the integration of the galactic beings with human beings, the easier it's going to be for the people that actually bought what was sold to them by our universities, by the power players, by the people with pointed fingers. Oh, that's not sophisticated. That's superstitious. That's against the Bible. They talk about it in the Bible. Honestly, I think people should not be allowed to quote the Bible unless they actually read the Bible, or unless they actually probably should read the 88 books that is now coming out all over the place, having to do with our Bible, 60 books. The real Bible, 88 books. What's in those extra 28? Okay. So I think that I have finished, except I did the map. I did the map, so let's do the map. Anyway, I told you I'd let myself be ADD and not feel good about it, not feel guilty about it. This is the map. There's a counterclockwise circle in green, which you can barely see from everything else. And that's heart chakra. It's moving very nicely. It's grounding. Your frequency is blue and pink, which is very good. Now, I tried to draw, which I'm not supposed to do, but I wanted to draw the Merkaba and I was not able to. So basically, we are not in a stable place, but we have good vibrations, and our heart stuff is getting grounded. Maybe we should stop being so sarcastic with the people that are now at the bottom, which would be the left, the Democrats, and the Karens and all of that. Maybe we need to be, because if you look at the map, because it's two exact same pens, it's the blue that's stronger, and that's the male energy. Maybe we need to be a little bit more compassionate and understanding. When we can do that is when we get to the heart center, where the literal translation of the name of the heart center is no sound, because nothing is hitting up against something else in the heart center. It's just pure, what they call intelligence of the heart. Okay, we have finished. And when I set up my executive coaching programs, I will let you know. Start using the Sigil now. Print it up, put it all over the place. You've been in my energy for 30 minutes, so you're more psychic. So put it someplace like your bank statements or your pocketbook, and then move away from it 10 feet, sit down, make sure nobody's going to be walking in and out, no sounds. Close your eyes and breathe, and see if you are going to be able to see how this sigil changes, whether it was your pocketbook, your wallet, or your bank statements. And then go ahead and go into the automatic response by you of, no, I don't, I'm not sure that's what I saw. You saw it or you didn't see it. You don't have to tell anybody. When I used to do training, very expensive years ago, what I had to do was not train people in being psychics. I had to train them to stop second guessing what they were hearing and what they were seeing, because they would think, oh no, I just made this up. No, I didn't see that. But you said you saw it. Well, maybe, but I don't know. Those are little devils wanting you not to trust yourself, because you have that skill. You're born with it. Now, you go through the Jeffrey Epstein stuff and it'll develop real quick. Go through the military mind control program, it'll develop real quick. Don't do that. You can learn it under much more graceful conditions. Okay? So that's it. And let's see what comes up next week. I'm just sitting here observing, and I came out in 92 as a mind control victim. This is what, 30 some years later. Okay. Bye.